Walmart, Avon, Bristol-Myers, all dealing with various alleged bribery scandals. Bill George is a professor at the Harvard Business School, former chairman and CEO of Medtronic, sits on the board of Goldman Sachs and ExxonMobil. And Jeff Sonnenfeld, the senior associate dean at the Yale School of Management and a CNBC contributor. Gentlemen, happy Friday, or not so happy, Jeff, as the case may be. First, broadly, what do you think is going on? I mean, Lend-Lease, Accretive Health, the stories I've already mentioned, is behavior getting worse, or are regulators getting more perceptive?
I think regulators are on the ball a little bit more for sure, but these are extraordinarily lapses, unexplainable and inexcusable lapses of iconic companies, especially, of course, Walmart is perhaps the most devastating news of the week and maybe one of those stories of the year. If it's only $24–30 million of actual amounts of bribery, it doesn't matter. We don't know what else is happening in there and getting into places in India and China. It's the model that's set, which is devastating. Invading sacred lands, putting up Walmarts right next to these great pyramids and things. It's just nonsense. And to have one out of 5 Walmarts in the world in Mexico,
yeah.
This just can't be good for shareholders either. It's just driving out other competitors like Carrefour that had to leave because of this monopolistic behavior, and it's surely it's not creating more jobs. That's a ruse. It's just displacement. What in the world is violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act matters? Such a bad model. And how can you enforce any rules if they can't model it at the top?
Sure. And Bill, we talked about Walmart earlier in the week. This Chesapeake story, though, changed yesterday when the board essentially distanced themselves from Aubrey McClendon in a way. What's your take on what he did and whether or not the board was there to monitor what he was doing?
Well, I don't know, Aubrey, but I think, he is the founder, and I think there's a clear conflict of interest here. And it strikes me, Carl, that he's never made the distinction between owning your own company and being a publicly held company, by the way, with debt now at EE- and maybe going down. And so I think the board acted somewhat late on this issue, because I think it should have been cleaned up a long time ago, of separating the interests of the corporation from any personal investments of the CEO. And I know as CEO, I just would never invest in anything that came close to any business Medtronic was in, because I knew it was going to come back to bite me.
Yeah. So you don't think that kind of behavior is illustrative of how most CEOs think or behave?
Oh, no. If I serve on the board of a major oil and gas company, any oil and gas company, I'd be shocked if I heard that kind of thing was going on in one of them.
Carl,
I think it has to do with him being the founder, Carl.
Jeff?
I completely agree, and I'm glad, Bill, you were to comment on that. I can't imagine that ExxonMobil would operate in this way. They're the leader in this space. I think as this company is running behind the tremendous miracle of energy triumphs that we have, of course, in natural gas. It's perhaps a quarter of our country's supply right now, and it's roughly that for the world. But India, it's maybe 7%, and China 3%. There's a lot of opportunity here. This is the first time since 1949 this country's exported any sort of oil and gas products.
Yeah.
That's great news, but you don't have to cheat to do it this way. And for this CEO to have this reckless personal financial scams and to be backed up by the company this way with warning shots over the bow back in years ago to clean this act up, you got to wonder how this founder's getting this extra credit, like issues at Facebook that have come up in Groupon around these regards.
And then there's Avon, right? Just yesterday, this executive leaving the company in connection with this probe into possible, again, bribery overseas. I guess my question is not just specifically about Avon, which is a good story, an interesting story, whether or not they can fend off Cody, but at a time when we're trying to get the retail investor interested in stocks again, is this good in any way? I mean, it seems like it would turn people off to business overall, but maybe in a strange way, it shows that the bad behavior is coming to light, for better or worse.
Well, Avon's a complex story. I know Andrea Jung, I know Sherry McCoy, the new CEO. It's not quite clear what's going to happen there, and I don't know the backstory other than they've got a huge investment in China, and I understand that's where the investigation's going on of their practices. They've got 6.5 million Avon representatives around the world, and so this is a very big and sad story, and I think, honestly speaking, in this case, the CEO stayed too long. She's still chair of the board. I hope Sherry McCoy gets a chance to do it, but with Cody breathing down their neck, they often sweep in at the time when a company is vulnerable, and I think this is a company that is. So I think it's a wait and see right there. But you know, Cody is really Reckitt Benziger, and the chairman is Bart Beck, who is a very successful and aggressive business person.
Gentlemen, thank you very much
in all
for your
these
time.
situations.
Jeff, before you start, let me